Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
We're live.
This thing seems so tall. It's live.
It's too short.
Yeah, I even have heels on,
That's
like
it.
a little bit or something. All right, so I think almost everybody has been to a circle gathering before, but I always like to put the reminder out there that the circle gathering came from the idea that if we come together like we're supposed to, with our hands, we form a circle. And in that, thinking about a circle with pressure, it can bend, but there's no weak ends or points, so it doesn't break. And in the circle, you can still feel the pressure. You can still have somebody that you're holding on to that's weak. But in that, you got two other people on either side of you that's able to hold you up so you still don't break. So that's what we're doing here. We're sharing our testimonies, reminding each other that we're in this together. And we're not alone. We're going through something or have gone through something. It's nice because I like being with a group of people. I think I said it earlier that they don't really have an amnesia, that they've been through something, so they don't have this tendency to judge others based off of what they're going through or have gone through. For Jesus people. So this last week was interesting. Well, last week was interesting. I got to go to the dentist. I was in pain, and I couldn't see what was causing the pain. I just know I couldn't chew, I couldn't eat. It got to the point where I couldn't breathe without having pain. And I had asked other people to look in my mouth. I was showing my mouth to everybody. I took pictures. I think I sent you a picture. I asked you to look. I asked everybody to look in my mouth and tell me what was wrong because it was hurting. And as much as everybody could look and empathize and feel sorry for me, tell me stories about their pain or their past issues going to the dentist or cavities, that didn't fix my problem. So I still had the same problem, even though I'm sitting there trying to figure out on my own what it was. So I got advice to call the expert, and I don't like the dentist. Like, my blood pressure goes up. So I called my dentist, and they were willing to see me like that. They were like, no, we need to see you today. But that wasn't good enough for me because I had things to do. So I still had to wait a couple days. So I was willing to go see the expert and finally see the person that could actually fix my problem. But I still had to do it on my time. So we walk in there, and within 30 seconds, he's like, oh, I know what this is, but I'm gonna do an x-ray so I can show you what the problem is and make sure we get all the way to the root of the problem, literally. So he did the x-ray. He was like, you need a root canal. You got issues going all the way up there. Your tooth must have cracked. You got problems. This has been going on for a while. And I was like, no, it's not. It just started last week. I ate some chocolate chip Girl Scout cookies, and ever since then, it hurt. And he was like, no, it's been going on for a while. You probably were just ignoring it. But he said, we can fix this like today, if you're willing to. He said, this is how much it's gonna cost you. If it's worth it, you'll let me get in there and do what I need to do, and you won't have the pain anymore. So I did. I told him, you got the tools, fix me. There was some frustration because I had just saved up some money, but I just had enough to pay for it. So it cost me something, but he fixed me. So it was crazy because I thought about that later and I was frustrated, but I didn't have the pain. And like that day I went to work and I didn't have the pain. So I started thinking that night, I don't know if I was reading or what, and I just started writing this down because isn't that how our God works? Like, he doesn't want us living in pain. He has the tools to fix us. He's the expert. He's the man with the knowledge. So in 1 Peter, I'm gonna read this to y'all, 1 Peter 5:10, he says, in his kindness, God called you to share in his eternal glory by means of Christ Jesus. So after you have suffered a little while, he will restore, support, and strengthen you, and he will place you on a firm foundation. And in the verse above that, he reminds us that all over the world, there's somebody going through this. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
God is watching y'all. No, you're not. So the pain was just a sacrifice for what's to come. I wasn't dead. I was still pushing. I was still moving. And then I was even reminded that I didn't really have to suffer that long. I could have went and seen him sooner. He was waiting on me. I wasn't waiting on him. He was willing to see me as soon as I admitted that I had an issue that needed to be taken care I was listening to T.D. Jake's sermon this weekend, and then somebody sent it in a text message. I listened to it 3 times. And he wants us to take our cares and our worries, our pain, everything to the cross. And when T.D. Jakes was talking in that podcast, he was talking about how the cross, you should have a cross on your wall. My grandmother reminded me of this one time. Not with a crucifix. You want that plain cross, because that's the reminder, that's our symbol. Jesus wasn't stuck on the cross. He didn't get stuck there. The cross itself is where we go to let the things die that we don't need anymore, so we can walk through and be restored and renewed. It's waiting on us. All we got to do is take it there and leave it there and have faith that leaving it there. Jesus didn't get stuck there. Neither does he want us to get stuck with our cares and our worries. We got to have faith that he's going to take care of us. So really quick, and then I'll invite Kurt up here. Maybe, is he on his way? Okay. So I also want to remind us that God also gives us the tools to do some of his works for him. He speaks through us and through our hearts. And in Proverbs 17:22, he reminds us how we can be the medicine and help fix the pain. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. So we got the tools to do God's work. We just have to be willing and able to do it. So we're doing things a little backwards today. Usually we start with worship, and then a word, and then our guests. But we're going to do a little bit backwards because Ryan should be here soon. So I'd like to invite Kurt up to share his testimony with us, because this man did not give up, and he has some strength in him that's beyond his control. All right, so thank you.
You know it was funny, before I even, when I started, figure out what I wanted to talk about tonight, I was like, how am I going to start this off? And like you just said, the key part is strengthening suffering. And something that resonate with me. And I just want to share hands, strength and suffering. Who would want to go on a 120-mile, 3-day adventure race, biking and kayaking from Key Largo, Florida to Key West right now? Raise your hand.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. We'll see. I'll ask that question later. Well, one of the I just want to just get a background on my story. When I growing up, I played sports. I played basketball, baseball, track and field, golf. I was the manager for a cross country team. By my freshman year, I started noticing my body, everybody else in my group, people I ran around with, people I played basketball with, always got a little bit better. Okay, they were going up where I was kind of staying still. Everybody was getting stronger and faster, and I was kind of staying neutral. Then during my junior year, I was still involved in sports. I did something that was either involved with it or played it for all the way through my senior year. But my junior year, I wanted to go into something athletic-wise. And so I kind of started hanging out with our athletic trainer at my school, and I fell in love with that career. Before my freshman year in college, though, my doctor, before a routine exam, decided that he wanted me to go in and do some other tests. He saw something wrong that was going on with my body that I wasn't aware of. And so he sent me down to Indianapolis. And throughout some testing, I have an identical twin brother, and we both went down there. Through some testing that we did, they determined that me and my brother both have a rare neuromuscular disorder called spinal muscular atrophy. It's a form of muscular dystrophy. And what it does is it basically takes the nerves, the protein that your nerves need to survive. My body does not produce those. So over time, people with my condition, the nerves actually end up dying, and you become weak and unable to do some of the stuff that a normal person would do. So after that, I basically told my doctor, I'm listen, I want to be an athletic trainer. How is that going to test into what my life is going to be like in the future? And basically the doctor told me, he goes, you should look into getting a desk job. Giving up something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I thought real hard, I thought real quick that wasn't going to happen. So that day, I bound determined I wanted to like prove that doctor wrong. So I basically hit the gym 6 days a week, and throughout even college, it was hard for me to like admit to a lot of people. Like people would always ask like, "What's wrong with your legs?" Or "Hey, you're having problems today. Well, is there something wrong?" And I never wanted to admit to it because I wanted to be a normal person. I wanted to be that working with athletes as an athletic trainer. Like I wanted to be those people, and I knew I could never do that. But I also gave up a lot of stuff that I love to do, like playing sports, okay, because of the fear of like hurting myself. But I want people to think I wanted to look normal. But after about 6 or 7 years, I finally realized that like I wanted to like tell people like my story. And if they asked me, I wasn't gonna blatantly just go out to somebody and say, "Hey, like, yeah, I have this condition." But they, when people started coming up to me, I was like, I was like, God put me on this earth for a purpose, and it's to help somebody understand like what my life is like, and what struggles I have. That'll help them. It was funny, like just this week, Robert Roberts from GMA actually did an interview with Kobe Bryant. I know it's big in the news lately. And basically, Kobe was saying there's a difference between what you do with who you are. Now, that's a test to me because of the fact that like I do everything for one, the glory of God, but also the fact that like I want to show people that I have this condition, but I'm not going to let it stop me. And about 3 years ago, I started noticing things have always gotten hard for me. By the way, that is the cutest little thing over there, having you hold her and it's like, she's like the coolest thing. Yes. But about 3 years ago, I started noticing things getting a little bit harder for me, like being able to stand on the sidelines at a football game. Oh, by the way, I'm still an athletic trainer 25 years later.
Amen.
Awesome.
I work with a lot of some of the kids here. But about 3 years ago, I started noticing things getting a little bit harder. And unfortunately, my family doctor was standing on my sidelines at one of the football games. He started noticing like a couple of things I used to do, like whenever there's a timeout of football games, I would get tired of like standing there. Whenever there's a timeout, I'd go sit down just to kind of give my body a break. I also noticed over time, the last 3 years, also like going on long walks, or if my wife wants to go to Chicago or like Las Vegas or something like that, I knew my limits. Like I knew I could only go so far, and then I'd have to stop because my endurance wasn't there like it used to be. So my doctor decided, hey, I'm going to do some research. So he sent me, he did some research at Ohio State. They just came out with a new FDA-approved drug that they've been working on for almost 22 years. And then actually they came out with a gene that they produced this drug from a year after I got diagnosed. So which is like totally cool in itself. So he sent me down to Ohio State, did a bunch of testing. They determined I was approved for this drug. So I started that drug in July of 2018. And I started noticing instant like difference. They basically take, just so you know how they do this drug, is they basically stick a needle about that far into the middle of my spine, and then they take my spinal fluid out, and then they inject this medicine into it. And what it does is it gives my body the protein that it needs to survive, or for those nerves to be able to flourish. After about the fourth shot, I started noticing a huge difference. Like I would like stand on the sidelines. I literally didn't take a break during like timeouts and stuff. I just stood the entire game. I actually found myself talking to someone standing outside during halftime and then finishing the game and not even taking a break, which is like crazy to even fathom. I also noticed like throughout my workouts getting a little bit of strength through that, and I was able to, when I was done working out, I used to not be able to go home and like do simple things like mow my lawn and weed whack my side lots. I could go home and do that now, which is like crazy to even think. But after my fourth shot, I had just gotten a new case manager on my case. She's through the drug company, and I called her up and I'm like, I do all these races, like through my profession, we do we cover all these races in Toledo where they have a bunch of people running and stuff. And obviously, like I'm always with the kids in sports and stuff. But one of the things I just kept in my mind is like I want to do is like I want to cross the finish line. You know, that's something I always wanted to do. And since doing the drug, like I just got this huge like confidence in myself. And so I called up my drug rep, and she goes, and I told her exactly what I was like. I'm going to cross the finish line. Can I do that? And she goes, Curtis, like I have a perfect thing for you, because she had just done this race the year before, like just a week ago before I called her, which is crazy to even think. And so it's called Project Athena, and it's the Florida Keys adventure. Yeah, it was crazy. So like I looked it up, and the lady who runs this, Robin Benacasa, she's the founder of it. And she, just the background on her, she is a 40-time Eco Challenge winner, which is, if you know anything about the Eco Challenge, it's basically, they throw you out in the middle of nowhere, and it's usually about 600 to 1,000 miles that you have to travel, all manpower. So biking, kayaking, hiking, rappelling, all that stuff. And you basically have to get point A to point B the quickest, and the team that gets there the fastest wins. And usually it's like lack of sleep, nutrition, all that stuff. You just got to you have to carry all the stuff that you need to get you to that finish line. She's won it twice, and she's placed in the on the podium 20 of those 40 times. Yeah. So after one of her races, she actually started noticing some problems in her hip. Like she actually literally, once she's done it, she almost couldn't finish, but her team I think finished 4th or 5th. She got on the plane. Her husband actually had to physically pick her up out of the plane to get her home. She went to the doctor, and the doctor says you have stage 4 osteoarthritis in both hips. So she ended up having, and by the way, you will never be able to run again. So to take a person out of that context of like such an extreme athlete, and to tell them, hey, you know what, you can't run anymore, is pretty devastating. And so she came up with this foundation to help survivors that have overcome like a medical like setback in their lives, be able to live their adventurous life. So she has this Florida Keys adventure, a 120-mile, 3-day adventure race, biking and kayaking literally from Key Largo, Florida to the very southernmost tip of Key West. I looked it up. I was like, that's for me. So we trained. I trained for about 4.5 months. They gave us all the training stuff. Going up on day 1, I get down there, I'm nervous as could be. Didn't know what to expect. I'm like, I trained all this stuff. I feel like my body's ready. But I got to the finish line, and like most athletes, man, I wish I had like maybe a few more days to like maybe recover to make sure my body's ready for this. But it wasn't. It was going to be right there that day. So day 1, we had 11-mile started with 11-mile kayak, beautiful weather. Then we ended up with a 28-mile bike ride. About 3/4 of the way through that bike ride, we had a torrential downpour, like downpouring rain, like biblical rain, like totally hitting us in the face. Like everybody, we just had to keep going because we had to get to the finish line. No one's gonna come pick us up. Like we're just gonna keep going. And throughout that whole process, one of the things I noticed with me is I had the endurance, but my strength wasn't completely there. I was lacking a little bit of strength. So a couple of the guys, they did it for a lot of other people, just to kind of keep us all together as a group. There's about 25 of us. They would put their hand on my back while they're riding their bike and pushing us. And after the rainstorm, my whole like stuff I was wearing was completely soaked. And one of the guys who was on a tandem bike with one of the 3 blind people that we had there, we had three blind people that did this race. He had pushed me a few times, but this time he had when he got a little bit too close, and his handlebars got caught in my shirt, and it was something pushed me out of the way, and I got out of the way, and he ended up crashing with the blind guy behind him, and so I was nervous as could be, so I turned around and I went back to make sure they were both okay, and the guy that was in the front, he was one of they call them trail angels. and he came around. He's like, "Are you okay?" We kept checking, make sure. It was like, "What hurts?" And the guy kept saying, "My thumb hurts," and he was like, "I think it's broke." So we ended up taking his glove off. He actually dislocated his thumb. This is day one.
Yeah.
Okay, we just got pretty much started, and so the guy was an EMT and nurse, and so he popped it back in place and got him bandaged up and stuff. And he goes, "We have two options. Like we can stop right here, or we can continue, or we can stop right here. We can have somebody come pick us up, which is totally fine. We may have to wait a little bit. It stopped raining, so we were really that worried about it." He's like, "Or we can get back on this bike and continue." And he goes, "Well, we're gonna finish this." And so he got on the bike and finished that day. Then we get dried off. We eat dinner that night. We all like laugh about the whole thing, but the guy still got an injured thumb. Day two, Robin had talked about being brave, and that's kind of a testament to like my story is being brave. But she talked about just how much bravery comes into life just in general, and trusting people. So we went out 10-mile bike ride to start off with, 15-mile kayaking with. When we did the biking, we had a 15-mile-an-hour headwind the entire day. When we did the kayaking, we had 3 or 4 foot swells where our kayaks were like going, and we're in the middle of the ocean, by the way. And so we're literally going through this with these 3, 4. So 2 of the kayaks actually tipped. We got them back in. We finished that day. Then we ended up getting to. If you've ever heard of the 7-mile bridge, who's ever heard of the 7-mile bridge? It's this 7-mile bridge from one of the mainlands to the southern part of the United States. It's basically a huge landmass. But literally from where we started at to the very end, you couldn't even see the other side. We had a 15-mile headwind across this bridge with probably about 4 feet. So you look if this was the line for cars that were coming 55 miles an hour, this was a concrete wall that was about this high to about 30, 40 foot drop into the ocean. And that was our bike path that we had. So we're like going across this road, and I'm struggling. Right in the middle of it, there's a 30-foot climb to the top of the bridge so that the boats could go through. And like I'm struggling through it was the hardest thing. Oh, by the way, also my water ended up, I completely ran out of water for halfway through that. And so I get to the end, and we're like encouraging, like there's a lady in front of me that's like struggling too. And I also know that Jeff, the guy that dislocated his thumb, was way ahead of me. And I'm like, if that guy can finish this, you better believe me, I can finish this. And it was crazy. Like I got over the top, we finished. That was like we had still had another 7 miles or 7 or 8 miles. So I finished that day, that time. As soon as I pulled into the campground site where we were going to stay at, I immediately broke down, like completely lost it. Because that was like one of the hardest things I had ever accomplished in my entire life. That's like pushing yourself. You know this, like pushing yourself to like the tip of your limit. And I was tired, and I can't believe I had just did something that 25 years ago someone told me that I had stopped doing something that I love to do.
Yeah.
And so like I completely broke down. Robin comes over and she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm absolutely fine." I was like, I can't believe I just did that. And she goes, she's laughing. She goes, "You know what, Kurt?" He's like, "You know what the best part is? We got to do this again tomorrow." So anyway, so we, I was thinking I had a point that I wanted to make. So day 3, we started off, we still had a headwind, 15 mile an hour, still hitting us right in the face. We got to the kayaks, had the most beautiful, it was completely sunny. We actually had a tailwind for the first time in 2 days, and the water just pushed us. We did 13 miles in a kayak. If you think about 13 miles in a kayak, it took us about 3.5 hours, like straight paddling in a kayak. And then at the end, we did about an 18-mile bike ride to the very southernmost tip of the United States. I don't know if you've ever seen Key West. They have this huge like cone that's at the base of the tip of Key West. and we made it all the way to the southernmost point that you can ever make in the United States. And then we came back to like a little beach area, and Robin kind of gave us some kind of like closing remarks, like, hey, what we had just accomplished, 120 miles. And oh, by the way, she pointed down the beach and said, "There's your finish line."
Ooh,
And it was crazy. I was so excited for everybody that was there on the race with me, and I crossed that finish line, and at the end we all came together, and I nearly broke down crying again.
Yeah.
It was an emotional roller coaster for
Amen.
me. And I was telling everyone how much like everybody encouraged me through this, and they were telling me the same thing, how much I encouraged them, because I fought through something that like a lot of people told me I couldn't do.
Yes.
And I crossed that finish line, and for the first time in 25 years, I felt like an athlete for a long time.
Oh, that's so good.
And yeah. So, and the best part is, on top of that is Robin. She goes, Kurt, you know what the other thing is you're now a world-class endurance athlete, which is like even on top of it.
Yeah.
And through that time, I was just rejoicing with everybody else. And when I got home, I was emotional. My wife's like, "What the heck's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "You don't believe what I just did." And I wrote. I'll have to read this because I want to get it right. But I wrote Robin this 2 days after it. I wrote her this. I was like, "I keep thinking of all the things that I've brought through this whole experience. I never forgot your speech on day 2 about being brave. I have always been fearful of hurting myself because if I did, it would have such a setback on my life. The whole time Reaper, one of the guys, they call him the Reaper because he's always in the back. This guy's a ex-military co-ops guy. Like he's a bad dude. And Danny, who's one of the other guys, he's actually Robin's nephew. I did on time.
Couple minutes.
Robin's nephew. They were helping me through this. The whole time Reaper was helping me through the push, I had a death grip on my handlebars with fear of crashing. But through that fear, I developed a trust with him and Danny. And I think that is what God is there to do, to give us a push when we are fearful,
Yes.
and knowing that all we need to do is to trust Him.
Yes.
I have stuffed an athlete so far down inside of me
Jesus.
for so long because of fear, and I know
Yes.
now that He will keep me safe if I
Yes.
can, and I can be the athlete I've always wanted to be.
Yes. Woo.
So
Yes. Yes.
On day 3. Yeah, I signed up to do it again.
Amen.
But
Yes.
anyway, so I just wanted to I think there's so many things that goes on with the stories, but one I think that resonates with me is being brave. Through this whole process, I lost who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all struggle with different things. We're not all perfect,
Yeah.
I look at everybody, I look at all my athletes that are out there running and all that stuff, but you know what? That everyone has a story, okay? No one's perfect.
That's right.
If you think you're perfect, you got some soul searching to do.
Amen.
We all have stories, be it a disability or anything, anything that that God's put in your life, He's done that for a purpose to make you a stronger person.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what God's done with me,
Amen.
and has got me through a bunch of stuff that a lot of people thought when I was diagnosed at 25, by this age, I would actually be in a wheelchair. Most of the people that have this condition are in a wheelchair by now. And the fact that I'm still walking is pretty.
Amen. Yes. Thank you, Kurt.
Anybody have any questions? I know I went through a lot.
Well, we can open the floor at the end.
Yeah,
too,
absolutely,
if you want.
absolutely.
Do you have a question?
No, I'll wait.
We'll open the floor at the end.
Okay.
Don't leave.
No,
So
you're
don't
good.
leave.
Oh, no, I won't. We're good. Yeah.
When you were adopted, I was like a marathon, like something.
So what it is, what they basically do is they take people that have had a medical setback, and they basically throw them out. They have 3 different other adventures. They have this one is 120-mile biking and kayaking from Key Largo, Florida to Key West. And basically, I think it ended up being around about 40 miles each day. So we basically went from point A to point B took a break that night, got up the next morning, and
Nowhere near that.
yeah. But you know what? Honestly, like, so like even through that whole, I'm sorry, I don't need to take up more time.
No, they
But like even through that the whole thing, like even through all the training and stuff that we did, like I didn't know if I was even going to be, am I prepared for this? You know, like, and I think I just had to trust the coaches that did what they needed to do to get me ready for this, because the base was all on, like all of our training was like online, and basically I basically had to go out and just do it. And there was no one there except for myself to like push myself. I didn't have a coach to like, hey, you need to keep running or keep going faster or move on stuff. I had to do that all on my own. And so basically they told us what we needed to do, and we just did it. And yeah, but they have another one that's called Rim. It's a rim to rim to rim, which basically they go in the Grand Canyon. It's from one of the rims to the other rim, and then they go back. So it's basically like almost 50 miles. They do like cove to harbor, which is basically 2 full marathons on each day, basically along the beaches of California. It's just like crazy. But they have all kinds of people. They had one of the reasons why my drug rep or my case manager had told me was the lady that did it with spina bifida. I don't know if you know much about spina bifida. Yeah. They have pretty much a lot of their function in their lower extremities are hindered, and they had to do obviously some little things to help modify her experience, but she did it, you know. And I'm like, if that a lady, or they had a lady who in high school had ACL surgery. This is my little son. He's probably wanting something right now. But they had a lady who at high school had tore her ACL. You would completely this. She ended up getting an infection in her knee, and after 53 knee surgeries, she decided, I'm done, and she actually had above knee amputation, she finished that race that I just did.
Wow.
So, which is crazy. So, basically, you think about it, it's all in your mind. Like, if you put your mind to something, like, you can accomplish anything you want to.
Yes.
Who wants to do a 120-mile adventure race?
That's all you, Kurt.
Come on, yeah, you got it.
You were doing too.
Yeah, it was hard, but you know what? It's something I've always wanted, and it was a pretty amazing experience. So
Awesome.
that was cool.
Can I just say something real quick? Those doors are open over there. Drop a fan. Get some of that spirit. I feel you over there. Y'all heard me?
We just thank God for Him just allowing us to come together one more time. We just thank Him and praise Him for how good He is. How many of you know God is good? And His mercy is everlasting, and His truth, the Bible tells us, it endures to all generations, from the youngest to the oldest. We're so grateful to God for His grace and His mercy. Let's begin to worship Him. Lord, you are good and your mercy endures are. We worship you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We worship you for who you are. Yes, you are good. Yes, you are good. Yes, you are good. You are good. Someone.
Let me say something really quick, y'all. Ryan, you can keep playing. Ryan, keep playing. So, somebody came tonight, and their purpose for coming was to support me and what God's doing with me. And God's saying, I got you. Because what you thought you was coming for is not the only thing you're going to leave with, knowing you got this done. Somebody needed some lifting up or something. And God said, now that you're here, let it go. Whatever it is, let it go. Don't carry it out up here with you. Don't let it go with you. So I thank you for coming to support me, wherever it is, because this is the group. But it ain't about me right now. And I don't want it to be. It's about somebody in here that's hurting. And they ain't even told somebody what was hurting them. And God said he heard you. So Shannon, can you say something else, baby? I don't know what it is. Thank you.
I'll never know how much it costs to see my sins upon the cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sins upon the cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sins upon the cross. Thank you for loving me. Yeah. You are holy. Oh, so holy. You are holy. Oh, so holy. What a privilege and an honor to worship at your throne, to be called into your presence as your own. You are holy, oh so holy. You are holy, oh so holy. What a privilege Thank you for loving me. There is no one so holy, no one so worthy, no one so faithful. There is no one, there is no one, no one.
Jesus.
We search the heavens high. I've searched the earth below, but there's no one. There is no one, no one. Thank you. We worship you tonight, oh God.
I'm gonna read something really quick. You know the rules. If y'all have to go, if y'all got to leave, you can go. They read this at my great grandmother's funeral yesterday. She lived to be 99 years old. That's a life. It's his footprints in the sand. Everyone probably has heard this, but listen to it now. One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him, the other belonged to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him. I think we all can relate to that "where are you, God" moment. And he questioned the Lord. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why I needed you most. When I needed you most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you. I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, pain, questions, when you see only one set of footprints, that was the time that I was carrying you.
Jesus.
God is faithful, y'all. He is faithful. And even in the moments of the pain and the suffering, he's there. You're not dead. You're breathing. You're alive. When I look back in my life, it's hard to say to people, I'm thankful for my moments. And some of it hurt. I remember, like, well, God, just take me. I can't do this anymore. They don't need me here anyways. What good am I? I'm trash. And God was like, that's okay. Because with me, you're strong. And now I look back and I'm thankful for all those moments when I never gave in to him and I was only giving in to my own fleshly desires and not understanding, not even trying to understand. He's not asking us to be perfect. He's saying, come to the cross, come to me. You see I ain't there. Lay your stuff there with the rest of the trash and then come on through. I'm going to take you. Come on. Jesus. I want y'all to remember that. Now this didn't go how it was planned by us, but God don't make mistakes, y'all. I really want to thank Kurt for sharing his testimony because there's moments we don't feel like walking. This man was told he wasn't going to walk at some point in time. So there's sometimes where it takes a few, maybe sisters, to tell us, get up and shake it off. What are you doing? Laying there? Waiting for someone to tell you you can walk? If God didn't take it away from you, it's still yours and his. And this man did a race, a 120-mile race that some of us, with the capabilities that we have, wouldn't even touch. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? So, but that's just showing that as far away as our goals are, it don't matter. But you're not gonna ever make it there across the finish line if you stop. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over the time, but I really want to open up the floor. Is there anybody that needs prayer, share a testimony, questions for Kurt? Y'all know if y'all have to go, we all respect that and understand timing. But please, if there's anybody that wants to share anything, don't hesitate. Someone might need to hear it. Anything? Share something good, it don't have to be
I
bad.
think when you were sharing your story, you kind of said it a little bit too. It's like, it's a mental game. Like,
Oh, it is.
you know, like not just the race, but life is a mental game. You
Yeah.
know, like when